Did you know your brain can burn fat faster than any diet? I'm Dr. Andrew Huberman, and in this episode, I'm revealing 3 neuroscience hacks, fidgeting, cold exposure, and fasted exercise, that can torch fat in minutes. Stay tuned for science-backed tools you can use today to transform your body. Welcome to Huberman Lab Essentials, where we revisit past episodes to distill the most potent, actionable, and science-based tools for optimizing mental health, physical health, and performance. I'm Andrew Huberman, a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. This podcast is distinct from my academic roles at Stanford, but it aligns with my passion for sharing zero-cost consumer information about science and practical tools with the public. Today, we're diving into the science of fat loss with a particular focus on how your nervous system, your brain, spinal cord, and the neurons connecting to your body's organs can be leveraged to accelerate fat burning. This is an exciting topic because the nervous system's role in fat loss is often overlooked, yet it's a powerful controller of the process. We'll explore how neurons, along with their collaborators like glia and macrophages, influence fat mobilization and oxidation. We'll also discuss practical protocols rooted in peer-reviewed science that you can apply to enhance fat loss. These include movement patterns, environmental stimuli like cold exposure, exercise timing, dietary strategies, and even specific compounds that amplify fat burning pathways. Before we dive in, let's establish a foundational truth that underpins all discussions about fat loss: the calories in versus calories out equation. The fundamental truth: calories in vs. calories out. No discussion of fat loss is complete without acknowledging the cornerstone of metabolic science: the balance between calories consumed, calories in, and calories expended, calories out. This principle, often summarized as CICO, is non-negotiable. If you consume more calories than you burn, you're likely to gain weight, and a significant portion of that weight will be adipose tissue, body fat. Conversely, if you burn more calories than you consume, you'll lose weight, with a notable portion of that loss coming from fat stores. The exact proportion of fat loss versus muscle or other tissue depends on factors like exercise type, diet composition, and hormonal status, but the basic equation holds true. A calorie, as a unit of energy, is consistent regardless of its source, whether it's from carbohydrates, proteins, or fats. This universality is why the CICO model is so robust. However, while the equation is simple, its application is nuanced. The calories out component isn't just about how much you exercise. It's influenced by your basal metabolic rate, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, NEAT, and even subtle physiological processes controlled by your nervous system. Today, we'll focus on how neurons innervating your fat tissue can tilt the scales in favor of burning more fat, amplifying the calories outside of the equation. Let's start by exploring the biology of fat and how your nervous system governs its utilization. The biology of fat, types and functions. To understand fat loss, we need to grasp what fat is and how it's stored and used in the body. Body fat, or adipose tissue, comes in 3 primary forms: white adipose tissue, WAT, brown adipose tissue, BAT, and beige adipose tissue. Each plays a distinct role in energy storage and metabolism. White adipose tissue, WAT. This is the fat most people think of when they hear body fat. It's stored either viscerally around internal organs like the liver and intestines, or subcutaneously beneath the skin. WAT serves as an energy reservoir, storing excess calories as triglycerides, which are composed of a glycerol backbone attached to 3 fatty acid chains. White fat is relatively low in mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses that burn energy, which is why it's not inherently thermogenic heat producing. To lose white fat, you must mobilize these fatty acids and oxidize them elsewhere in the body. Brown adipose tissue, BD, unlike WAT, brown fat is rich in mitochondria, giving it a darker, brownish appearance under a microscope. BAT is primarily located between the shoulder blades, along the spine, and around the neck. Its high mitochondrial density makes it thermogenic, meaning it can burn energy to produce heat. This process, called non-shivering thermogenesis, is critical for maintaining body temperature, especially in infants, but it also plays a role in adults. BAT can directly convert stored energy from food or fat into heat, making it a powerful ally in fat loss. Beige adipose tissue. Beige fat is a hybrid of white and brown fat. It starts as white fat but can be browned through stimuli like cold exposure or exercise, increasing its mitochondrial content and thermogenic capacity. Beige fat is an exciting target for fat loss because it can be induced to behave more like BAT, enhancing energy expenditure. Your nervous system interacts with all three types of fat, but its influence is particularly pronounced with WAT and BAT. Neurons from the sympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for fight or flight, responses directly innervate adipose tissue, releasing neurotransmitters like epinephrine, adrenaline that trigger fat breakdown. This neural connection is what makes the nervous system a master regulator of fat loss, and it's why we're focusing on it today. Fat utilization, mobilization and oxidation. Fat loss involves two key steps, mobilization and oxidation. Let's break these down to understand how they work and how the nervous system influences them. Fat mobilization. Stored fat triglycerides must be broken down into its components, glycerol and fatty acids, before it can be used for energy. This process, called lipolysis, is catalyzed by enzymes like hormone-sensitive lipase, which are activated by signals from the nervous system. During lipolysis, the glycerol backbone is cleaved, releasing fatty acids into the bloodstream. These fatty acids can then travel to energy, demanding tissues like muscles or the liver. Fat oxidation. Once mobilized, fatty acids must be transported into the mitochondria of cells, where they're oxidized, burned to produce ATP, the body's primary energy currency. This process, also known as beta oxidation, is tightly regulated by hormonal and neural signals. High levels of insulin, for example, inhibit fat oxidation, while glucagon and epinephrine promote it. The nervous system accelerates both steps by releasing epinephrine, which binds to receptors on fat cells, stimulating lipolysis and enhancing the delivery of fatty acids to mitochondria. Epinephrine also increases mitochondrial activity, boosting the rate of fat oxidation. This dual action makes epinephrine a linchpin in fat loss, and it's released from two sources: the adrenal glands located above the kidneys and sympathetic neurons that directly innervate fat tissue. Interestingly, the epinephrine released from neurons is more effective at stimulating fat loss than circulating epinephrine from the adrenals. This is because neural epinephrine acts locally, targeting fat cells with precision. For example, when you engage in specific movements or expose yourself to certain stimuli, these neurons release epinephrine directly onto fat tissue, increasing the likelihood that stored fat will be mobilized and burned. This local action is a game changer, as it means you can strategically activate these neurons to enhance fat loss. Let's explore how to do that. Activating the nervous system for fat loss. To harness the nervous system's fat burning potential, we need to stimulate the release of epinephrine from sympathetic neurons. Several strategies can achieve this, ranging from subtle movements to environmental stressors. Below, we'll cover three powerful approaches: non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, cold, induced shivering, and exercise timing. 1. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. The power of fidgeting. One of the most accessible ways to stimulate epinephrine release is through subtle, low-intensity movements collectively known as non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. NEAT encompasses all the energy you expend outside of structured exercise, sleep, and eating. Think fidgeting, pacing, tapping your foot, or standing up frequently. These seemingly trivial movements can significantly increase caloric expenditure and fat loss, and they do so by engaging the sympathetic nervous system. The concept of NEAT gained traction through the work of researchers like Rothwell and Stock in the 1960s and 1970s. They observed that some individuals could overeat without gaining weight, while others gained fat easily. The difference, the non-gainers were fidgeters. These individuals engaged in constant, low-level movements throughout the day, bouncing their knees, shifting in their chairs, or pacing while talking. These movements triggered small bursts of epinephrine release from sympathetic neurons, promoting fat mobilization and oxidation. Modern studies, including those published in 2015 and 2017, have quantified NEAT's impact. For example, individuals who fidget or move frequently can burn hundreds of additional calories per day compared to those who remain sedentary. In one study, participants who incorporated NEAT, like behaviors e.g., standing, pacing, or light stretching, burned up to 350 extra calories daily, even without structured exercise. Over time, this caloric deficit can lead to significant fat loss, especially if combined with a balanced diet. Practical protocol for NEAT: fidget throughout the day, bounce your knee, tap your foot, or shift positions while sitting. These micro movements add up. Stand and move frequently. Set a timer to stand up every 30 minutes, stretch, or take a short walk around your office or home. Incorporate pacing. When on phone calls or brainstorming, pace back and forth to engage your core and limb muscles subtly. Cumulative effect. Aim for multiple bouts of NEAT daily. Even 10-15 minutes of fidgeting every hour can burn 50-100 extra calories. For individuals who are overweight or averse to exercise, NEAT is an excellent entry point. It's low effort, requires no equipment, and can be integrated into daily life. By stimulating epinephrine release, NEAT not only burns calories but also shifts your metabolism toward greater fat oxidation, making it a powerful tool for fat loss, too. Cold, induced shivering, a thermogenic powerhouse. Another potent way to activate the nervous system for fat loss is through cold exposure, specifically by inducing shivering. Shivering is a rapid, involuntary contraction of muscles that generates heat to maintain body temperature. It's also a robust stimulus for epinephrine release, which accelerates fat mobilization and oxidation. Moreover, shivering activates brown fat, which burns energy directly, further amplifying fat loss. A landmark study published in Nature in 2021 elucidated the mechanism behind cold-induced fat loss. When you shiver, your muscles release a molecule called succinate, which acts on brown fat to enhance thermogenesis. This process not only burns calories through muscle activity, but also increases the metabolic activity of brown fat, which can consume significant amounts of energy. Additionally, cold exposure can brown white fat, converting it into beige fat with higher thermogenic capacity. However, most people using cold exposure for fat loss via ice baths, cold showers, or cold plunges are doing it wrong. The common approach of staying in cold water for extended periods leads to cold adaptation, where your body becomes more efficient at conserving heat, reducing the shivering response and diminishing fat burning benefits. To maximize fat loss, you need to induce shivering repeatedly without adapting to the cold. Practical protocol for cold exposure: find your shiver point, choose a temperature that's cold enough to make you shiver within 1-2 minutes but not so cold as to cause discomfort or risk hypothermia. For most people, this is 50-60 degrees F, 10-15 degrees C water, though it varies based on cold tolerance. Cycle in and out, get into the cold e.g., a cold shower or plunge until you start shivering about 1-2 minutes. Step out, stay wet, and wait 1-3 minutes without drying off. Then get back in to reinduce shivering. Repeat this cycle 3-5 times per session. Frequency: perform cold exposure 1-3 times per week. More frequent sessions may lead to adaptation, reducing efficacy. Safety first. Start with warmer temperatures e.g. 60 degrees F and gradually decrease as you build tolerance. Avoid extremely cold water below 40 degrees F unless you're experienced, as it can shock your system or cause cardiovascular issues. This protocol maximizes shivering, succinate release, and brown fat activation, leading to significant caloric expenditure. For example, a single session of shivering can burn 100-200 calories, with additional metabolic benefits from brown fat thermogenesis. Over weeks, this can contribute to measurable fat loss, especially when paired with other strategies. 3. Exercise timing and intensity. Optimizing fat burn exercise is a cornerstone of fat loss, but its effectiveness depends on how and when you do it. The nervous system plays a central role here, as different exercise intensities and timing strategies influence epinephrine release and fat metabolism. To simplify, let's categorize exercise into 3 types based on intensity: sprint interval training SIT, all-out efforts 100% VO2 max lasting 8-30 seconds, followed by recovery periods. Examples include sprinting, cycling at maximum effort, or heavy kettlebell swings. High-intensity interval training HIIT, near maximal efforts 80-1, 100% VO2 max lasting 60-2, 140 seconds interspersed with rest. Think burpees, rowing, or fast-paced weightlifting circuits. Moderate intensity continuous training MICT, steady state cardio 40-60% VO2 max or 55-70% max heart rate for 20-60 minutes, often called Zone 2 cardio. Examples include jogging, cycling, or brisk walking where you can still talk. Each type engages the nervous system differently, with SIT and HIIT eliciting stronger epinephrine release due to their intensity, while MICT promotes fat oxidation over longer durations. A key question is whether exercising in a fasted state after an overnight fast or without eating beforehand enhances fat loss. Research shows that for short duration exercise under 90 minutes, fasted versus fed states have minimal impact on fat oxidation. However, for MICT lasting over 90 minutes, fasted exercise significantly increases fat burning. This is because prolonged exercise depletes glycogen stored sugar, forcing the body to rely on fat stores. In a fasted state, insulin levels are lower, facilitating this shift. For high-intensity exercise SIT or HIIT, the fasted state can enhance fat oxidation even within shorter durations, 20-60 minutes. High-intensity efforts deplete glycogen quickly, and low insulin levels in the fasted state allow fatty acids to be mobilized and burned earlier. Combining HIIT or SIT with subsequent MICT in a fasted state can amplify this effect, as the high-intensity phase primes fat mobilization, and the moderate phase sustains fat oxidation. Practical protocol for exercise: fasted height of moderate protocol, 3-4 times per week. Perform 20-30 minutes of SIT or HIIT e.g. 30-second sprints followed by 1-minute walks, repeated 8-10 times in a fasted state, followed by 20-30 minutes of MICT e.g. brisk walking or Zone 2 cycling. Hydrate with water or black coffee, but avoid food beforehand. Timing: morning workouts are ideal as you're naturally fasted after sleep. If you must eat, choose a low-insulin meal e.g. protein and fats 2-3 hours prior. Progression: start with 2 sessions per week and gradually increase to 4 as your fitness improves. Alternate with strength training or rest days to avoid overtraining. This protocol leverages the nervous system's epinephrine surge during high intensity exercise and sustains fat burning during moderate cardio, maximizing fat loss per session. For example, a 45-minute fasted session combining HIIT and MICT can burn 300-500 calories with a higher proportion from fat compared to fed exercise. Compounds and supplements for fat loss, while behavioral tools like NEAT, cold exposure, and exercise are the foundation of fat loss. Certain compounds can amplify fat mobilization and oxidation by enhancing epinephrine release or modulating metabolic pathways. Below, we'll cover 3 evidence-based options: caffeine, yerba mate, and GLP-1 agonists. 1. Caffeine, a stimulant for fat-burning. Caffeine is one of the most widely used and well-studied compounds for fat loss. It works by stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, increasing epinephrine release, and enhancing lipolysis and fat oxidation. Caffeine also raises metabolic rate, meaning you burn more calories even at rest. Studies show that 100-400 mg of caffeine, equivalent to 1-2 cups of coffee taken 30-40 minutes before exercise, can increase fat oxidation by 10-20% during workouts. However, the effect diminishes at very high intensities as the body prioritizes glycogen over fat. Caffeine's benefits extend beyond exercise. It can shift resting metabolism toward greater fat burning, though the effect is smaller. Practical protocol for caffeine dosage: consume 100-400 mg of caffeine, e.g. 1-2 cups of coffee or a 200 mg caffeine pill 30-40 minutes before exercise or in the morning to boost daily fat oxidation. Safety: avoid exceeding 400 mg daily to prevent jitters, insomnia, or cardiovascular strain. If you're not caffeine adapted, start with 50-100 mg. Sources: coffee, tea, or caffeine supplements are effective. Avoid sugary energy drinks as they spike insulin and counteract fat-burning benefits. 2. Yerba mate, boosting GLP-1. Yerba mate, a traditional South American tea, increases glucagon, like peptide-1 GLP-1, a hormone that enhances fat oxidation by promoting glucagon release and reducing insulin. GLP-1 also suppresses appetite, which can indirectly support fat loss by reducing calorie intake. Research shows that drinking yerba mate before exercise increases fat oxidation by 15-25% compared to a placebo, with benefits persisting at rest. Practical protocol for yerba mate dosage: drink 1-2 cups 200-400 ml of yerba mate 30-60 minutes before exercise or in the morning on non-exercise days. Preparation: use loose leaf mate or tea bags steeped in hot, not boiling water for 5-10 minutes. Avoid adding sugar to maintain low insulin levels. Frequency: 3-5 times per week, ideally in a fasted state for maximum effect. 3. GLP-1 agonists, prescription powerhouses. Pharmaceuticals like semaglutide, e.g. Ozempic, Wegovy are GLP-1 analogs that mimic the hormone's effects, dramatically increasing fat oxidation and reducing appetite. Originally developed for type 2 diabetes, these drugs have gained attention for their weight loss benefits, with clinical trials showing 10-15% body weight reduction over 6-12 months. However, they're prescription only and carry potential side effects like nausea or gastrointestinal issues. Guidance on GLP-1 agonists: prescription only. Consult a physician to determine if GLP-1 agonists are appropriate for you. Do not purchase from unregulated sources. Complementary use: if prescribed, combine with behavioral tools like exercise and NEAT to maximize fat loss and maintain muscle mass. Other compounds like berberine or metformin lower blood glucose and insulin, indirectly enhancing fat oxidation. However, their effects are less pronounced than caffeine or yerba mate and require medical supervision for long-term use. Diet and insulin, the final piece. While the nervous system and compounds play critical roles, diet remains the bedrock of fat loss. The goal is to create a caloric deficit while keeping insulin low to favor fat oxidation. Research from Stanford's Gardner Lab and others shows that low carb, low fat, keto, or intermittent fasting diets can all lead to weight loss if adhered to, with no single diet being universally superior. The key is choosing a plan you can sustain. Low insulin diets, e.g., low carb or keto, are particularly effective for fat loss because they minimize insulin's inhibitory effect on lipolysis and oxidation. For example, a personal strategy I use is eating low or no carbohydrates during the day to maintain alertness and maximize fat burning, then consuming carbs at night to aid sleep. This approach leverages the nervous system's epinephrine-driven focus during the day and insulin's calming effects at night. Practical diet tips: prioritize adherence. Choose a diet e.g., low carb, Mediterranean, or intermittent fasting that fits your lifestyle and preferences. Keep insulin low. Focus on protein, healthy fats, and non-starchy vegetables during the day. Save carbs for evening if you consume them. Track calories. Use a food diary or app to ensure a modest caloric deficit. 300-500 calories below maintenance to support fat loss without crashing metabolism. Putting it all together, a comprehensive fat loss plan. We've covered a wealth of science and tools for accelerating fat loss through the nervous system. Here's a sample weekly protocol integrating NEAT, cold exposure, exercise, compounds, and diet. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, morning fasted, 20 min HIIT. G. Sprint intervals plus 20 min MICD. G. Brisk walk. Pre-workout 200 mg caffeine or 1 cup yerba mate. Throughout the day, incorporate NEAT stand every 30 min, fidget, pace during calls. Diet: low-carb meals, e.g., eggs and avocado for breakfast, salmon and greens for lunch. Carbs at dinner, e.g., sweet potato. Tuesday, Thursday, morning, cold exposure 3 cycles of 1-2 min in 55 degrees F water, 1-3 min out. Pre-cold, 1 cup yerba mate. Evening, optional 30 min MICD, G, zone 2 cycling. Diet, same as above, emphasizing low insulin during the day. Saturday, Sunday, active recovery, light NEAT, e.g., walking, stretching, or rest. Diet, flexible but maintain a caloric deficit. Allow a small treat to support adherence. Ongoing, monitor progress, track weight, body measurements, or photos weekly. Adjust calorie intake or exercise if progress stalls. Safety. Consult a healthcare provider before starting cold exposure, fasting, or supplements, especially if you have medical conditions.